going to be working on 2.1b, comparing proportional relationships. This is page 25 in your packet or in your textbook. So in order to do this homework exercise, you also need to have your graph from class yesterday. So I did my graph tonight, and we'll be referring back to the bungee and the music lessons and long distance phone calls. So this graph needs to be completed before you can complete your homework today. So if you did not complete that graph in class, please make sure that you do that first before you can answer any of these questions. So for number 1, it says order the 5 activities from the highest cost to the lowest cost per hour. Well, what that looks like, if you take a look, the highest cost is going to be bungee jumping because the slope of that line, or the degree that it goes up on an incline, is the highest. So really what you're going to be doing is listing them this direction. So bungee jumping, music lessons, long distance, cleaning, roller skating. So let's go ahead and write that down. Bungee jumping is first. Then music lessons. Then long distance calls. Roller skating. And then the park would be the last one. That's all the way down on the bottom. So how do you compare the cost per hour by looking at the graph? So if you take a look at the graph, the steeper the line, the more expensive it is per hour. So if you take a look here, 1 hour is $80 to bungee jump, where 1 hour for long distance call is just $10. So the steeper the line, the higher the cost. Let's go ahead and write that down. The steeper the line on the graph, the higher the cost per hour. Question number 3. How do you compare the cost per hour by looking at the equations? Okay, so in your table that you did in class today, these are the equations that they're talking about. So you have to refer back to page 23 and all of the equations that you already wrote down. By looking at the unit rate, you can compare which one costs more per hour. The greater the unit rate, the more expensive per hour. The greater the unit rate. The unit rate is the number in front of x. Okay? The more expensive per hour. So remember, our equation is y equals, this is our unit rate, times x. That's our equation. That's going to be something you want to commit to memory. Question number 4, we're going to omit. You don't have to do that. Okay? Let's take a look at number 5. As the question, answer the questions below. It says, as the rate gets higher, the line gets steeper. So if you have a higher unit rate, you have a steep line. Or you could also say, if the line is lower, then your line is less steep. So you have a lower unit rate, your line is less steep. That's a P, by the way. Number 6, renting a pavilion at the park for 3 hours costs, well, take a look at your pavilion at the park, that's letter D. For 3 hours, we know the unit rate is 1 hour costs 25 cents. So if we use that unit rate and say, okay, for 3 hours, we're going to take 3 times 25 cents, which is 75 cents. We can do that in our head. No math required except mental math. It says talking on the phone for 2.5 hours costs, so if you take a look at the table, talking on the phone, we have 2 hours cost $20, and 3 hours cost $30, and 2.5 hours is in between those two. Okay, so if we did 2 hours equals $20, and 3 hours equals $30, 2.5 would be in between there. What's directly in between 20 and 30? Which is 25. So that would be $25. See how we're using the table to figure these out, right? Bungee jumping for 2.5 hours. So bungee jumping, let's take a look at that unit. So for 1 hour, it costs $80. So in order to find 2.5 hours, you can either split, like find the middle ground of 160 and 240, or you can take 80 times 2.5. Okay, so I'm going to do it this way this time and say, okay, oh, I'm sorry, 80 costs, I messed that up. Let's back up for a second, because for bungee jumping, for 1 hour, it costs $80, but they're asking how much it would be for $40. Well, when we did our table, we figured that out. So if it's an hour for $80, for half an hour it would be half of that, which is $40, so half an hour or 30 minutes. So you could say 0.5 hours or 30 minutes would be okay also. Alrighty, so now they want us to figure out if we only have $10, how long could we do these things? So we're going to use the table. We're also going to use our unit rate. Okay? So long distance conversations. So we have that one figured out already because that's the unit rate. So we could talk for 1 hour for long distance rate. For roller skating, for $10, that one's also in our table. So for $10, we could roller skate for 4 hours. Music lessons, however, gets a little bit trickier because if you take a look, there is no $10 option, right? And our unit rate is right here, which is $1. I'm sorry, for 1 hour, it's $25. So we want to figure out, okay, what if we only have $10? How long do we get without music lessons? Well, you can do that by setting up proportions. So I've talked to you about this a couple times. So we're going to do 1 hour is proportional to $25. So, but what if, this is for music, what if we only have $10? So what you do is you set those labels across from each other. This is going to be your X value. So really what you're doing, remember the butterfly? I don't know if you would remember that from years past. You're going to take 10 times 1 equals 25 times X. So it's really this equation here. Now to get X by itself, we're going to divide by 25. That cancels out, and X equals, what is 10 divided by 25? It is 0.4. Okay? You can also think of it this way. You multiply the two numbers that are diagonal and divide by the third. Okay? So music lessons, we're going to have 0.4 hours. Now let's take a look at the perk. Now the perk is also one that we're going to want to set up as a proportion because for 1 hour is 25 cents. So how I'm going to do that is set it up. 1 hour is 0.25. So I want to know, okay, I have $10. I'm going to take 1 times 10 and divide by 2.5. So 10, here's my diagonal, equals 0.25x. So I'm going to divide by 0.25. What is 10 divided by 0.25? That is 40 hours. And then for bungee jumping, let's do that one over here. I'm going to use the ratio also of my unit rate 1 to 80 because for 1 hour it's $80. So that would be X, and I only have $10 to bungee jump. So 1 times 10 divided by 80. So 10 equals 80x. We're going to do that diagonal. And oops, divided by 80. So 1/8, I guess. But what is 1/8? It's 0.125 hours. Go ahead and take a second and answer question number 10. How did you use tables, equations, or graphs to answer the questions? Okay, let's go on to page 26. Let me raise this up just a tad. There we go. Okay, so we have Torah and Hannah. Torah and Hannah both are snowboarders, and Hannah travels 18 meters per second. So question A says, which equation would best represent Torah's travels? So Torah is above Hannah, so her slope is higher. So it's going to need to be higher than 18 meters per second. So take a look at your choices, 29, 10, 17, and negative 18. Which one is higher than 18? That is letter A. So in letter B, they'd want you to explain your choice. So you would say, Torah's unit rate is more than 18 meters per second because the line on the graph is steeper. Than Hannah's. Okay? So now it says the unit rate is 10 meters per second. That describes Christina's speed. Draw a line that could be a possible representation for her speed. So it's 10 meters per second, so it's going to be underneath Hannah, and quite honestly, anywhere underneath Hannah would be fine for Christina's speed. Now let's talk about bakeries. We have two bakeries that we're going to be talking about. One is Sweet Chicks, and the other one is Buttercream Fairy. Okay, so we have two bakeries, Sweet Chicks and Buttercream Fairy. So we know for Sweet Chicks that they give us the equation. So that right there is the unit rate. So automatically by looking at that equation, we know that Sweet Chicks, let's label that, charges $3.25 per cupcake. Okay, we can tell that right from the equation. Where Buttercream, it says the graph given below shows the cost for buying cupcakes at Buttercream Fairy Bakery. So Buttercream, we have to use the graph to figure out what the unit rate is. So here's our number of cupcakes for our x-axis, and our y-axis is dollars. So you're going to follow that up, and for one cupcake, Buttercream Fairy Bakery charges $4 per cupcake. Okay. The question is, which bakery offers the better deal? Well, it would be Sweet Chicks. I want to say Sweet Cheeks. It's not Sweet Cheeks. It's Sweet Sweet Chicks Bakery is a better deal. So it says, use the information given above to determine how much it will cost to buy 10 cupcakes at the bakery with the better deal. So we can, quite honestly, just use this equation. So our cost is going to equal $3.25 times 10 cupcakes, which, if you know your mental math, if you multiply by base 10, you're going to move that decimal, so it would equal $32.50. on to page 27. Now we're going to talk about Charlie and Sophia. So first thing I want to point out that this is the table that represents Charlie, okay? So Charlie worked 4 hours, he got paid $38. 5 hours is $47. Friday, he worked 3.5 and he got paid $33.25, okay? Sophia, on the other hand, they give you her unit rate. So there's a difference here. It's hard to compare because we don't know Charlie's unit rate quite yet, but do we really need to figure that out in order to do what they're asking us to do, okay? So it says, using the same coordinate plane, draw a line that represents Charlie's earnings. If X is the number of hours, so you want to label this X, label it hours, and Y is the dollars, okay? The dollars earned. Also draw a line that represents Sophia. Now, if you're going to draw a line on a graph, the first thing you need to do is make a table. So we're going to make a table for Sophia, and we're going to make a table for Charlie, okay? So X is the hours, and Y, oh, sorry, you can't see that. There we go. And Y is the dollars. Now, if they work nothing, no hours, they don't get paid, right? But we know that Sophia works 1 hour, it would be $10.50 because that is the unit rate that they gave us. She works 2 hours, it's $21, so you would take $10.50 times 2. She works 3, it would be $31.50. You can take $10.50 times 3. If she works 4 hours, it would be 42. That's enough data points for us to build a graph. Now let's do the table for Charlie. So for Charlie, we don't know his unit rate. We could figure it out if we wanted to, but quite honestly, I can graph this just the way it is. The only thing I need to do, though, is make sure that I have these in order. So I'm simply going to say, okay, I know it's 0, 0, because if Charlie doesn't work any hours, he doesn't make any money. But if he works 3.5 hours, he gets paid $33.25. And if he works 4 hours, he gets paid $38. And if he works 5 hours, he gets paid $47.50. So all I did for Charlie was organize that information so that it went increasing order. Okay, not day of the week order like this, but increasing for his hours worked. So now we're going to label our scale. So the top number for Charlie is $47, so it would be in my best interest to try and get my scale to go all the way up to 50. And if you notice, there's darker lines and then lighter lines. I'm going to start with 0 here. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up by 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50. So really what I'm doing is going by ones. I just chose not to write all those numbers in there. On this side, I'm going to go by ones. 4 and 5. Okay, so now you need that straight edge handy, or you can use any kind of straight line, your ID or anything like that. So let's do Sophia first. So she's 1 and 10.50. So here's 10, and then 50 cents would be in between. 2 is $21, which would be right there. 3 would be $31.50. which is in between right there, and 4 would be $42, 40 right here, 41, 42, so it would be right there. Then I'm going to take that straight edge and connect those dots. I'm going to go all the way to the end. There we go. And I'm going to label this Sophia. So next, I'm going to plot the points that I have for Charlie. So at 3.5, it's 33.25. So here's 30, 31, 32, 33. Oh, 3.5 hours. Whoa, I almost made a mistake. I gotta go halfway between 3 and 4. So, again, here's 30, 31, 32, 33, and it's 33.25, so it would be right about there, kind of sitting on the line. 4 is 38, so I'm going to stick on that 4 line and go up to, here's 35, 36, 37, 38. And then 5 hours is 47.50. That's going to be 45, 46, 47, and 50 is in between those two. So now I'm going to connect those dots. And you want to go all the way to 0. Okay, let me back that up. So your graph should look like that. And here, label that Charlie, please. Now, how can you use the graph to determine who makes more money? Same thing as the bungee and the cost of everything. So if it has a steeper line, then it's got a higher unit rate. So Sophia, S-O-P-H-I-A, makes more money because the graph shows the line is steeper. The line is steeper on the graph. And you did it. Page 25, 26, and 27. I will see you guys in class tomorrow.